Do you eat with your smartphone? Do you go to the bathroom and carry your smartphone with you? Do you sleep side by side with your smartphone? Well, if you do, you might have an addiction to it. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the signs and symptoms of cell phone addiction, and you might be an addict. Hey friends, glad to be back today. And today we're going to be talking about smartphone addiction. The signs and symptoms of being addicted to your smartphone. I know many of you out there watching this video right now, you take that phone with you everywhere. No matter where you are, where you're eating, what you're doing, even going to the bathroom. You even sleep with it. If that's the case, you might be addicted and probably are addicted to your smartphone. So let's talk about that today. According to a recent study, 67% of smartphone owners have admitted to checking their phone, whether their calls or their messages, even when their phone did not vibrate and did not ring. Okay, this is a major sign of smartphone dependence. And it really should serve a warning for us, because I think many of us are really addicted to our smartphone, because our smartphone, it's more than a phone, right? We can check social media, text message, instant messages, we can check our email, all kinds of things. And so it really puts it at our fingertips all the time. And I don't know about you, but sometimes it feels like an added appendage to my right hand. So definitely, if you know by now, smartphone addiction is not in the DSM-5. It has not been in there yet. I think it probably might be included at some point, right? But they've recently talked about how smartphone addiction is very similar to gambling addiction, right? And so if you really think about that and you read about that in the DSM-5, you'll get some information on gambling addictions. But it's also about addiction in its own right. I know that many of us think about addiction as far as drugs, alcohol, food, gambling, sex, but there's also addiction to your smartphone. So let's talk about those symptoms right now. Okay, so let's begin talking about these symptoms. About 4 out of the following signs and symptoms are thought to comprise the criteria of cell phone addiction, so we'll talk about that. Okay, so the first one is a need to use the cell phone more. Okay, it's pretty self-explanatory with any addiction. For example, if someone's addicted, let's say, to marijuana, let's say addicted to that, and last week it took a certain amount to get at a certain high to feel a certain way, right? The next week it takes a little more and a little more. So the same thing applies to the smartphone, right? It takes more to have that same desired effect, right? So you're on the phone longer, you're spending more time on social media, and it doesn't seem to be working. Finally, you hit that level of the desired effect, and it seems to be wrenching up, every single week, every single day. The second indication that we may have a smartphone addiction is persistent failed attempts to use the smartphone less often. Meaning we're trying to use it less often, but we just can't seem to do it. Okay, and I think that's with any addiction. For example, smoking. When somebody's considering to give up cigarette smoking, right? I'm going to limit myself to 5 cigarettes a day. I'm going to, and you're really trying to do that, trying to stick with that, but it seems very difficult. A lot of times it's because we really don't know what we want out of this, but we also don't know certain ways and techniques of being able to pull back from this addiction and understanding fully what the addiction is, because a lot of us think it's funny about smartphone addiction, but it's really real. Another symptom of being possibly addicted to your cell phone is that you turn to your cell phone when you're experiencing feelings of anxiety, depression, or even loneliness. So our cell phone, our smartphone, begins to be our go-to to get out of that feeling, right? So what do? We go on our smartphone and we look at who's texting us, who's calling us, what calls we've missed, what's on social media. Did people like my recent post? Did people like my recent picture? Are people looking at my Snapchat? Are they paying attention? Are they commenting? And this seems to alleviate some of these feelings of feeling lonely, of feeling anxious, and even feeling depressed. And so this is a big one. And I think a lot of people use their phone to do this. So this is definitely an indication and a sign that you may be addicted to your cell phone. The next symptom is excessive use, where you've used the phone so much that you actually have lost that sense of time. You've actually lost several hours of your day, right? I mean, that's a big indication. When we start getting on the phone and we've lost an hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours, even longer, and we had no idea. And we've actually just lost even the sense of time in that situation. And that's something that's definitely a key to being addicted, because this isn't different from any other addiction. It's not like cell phone addiction is over here and being addicted to cigarette smoking is over here and alcohol addiction. Addiction is addiction, okay? And when we use something and we're addicted to it, we lose that sense of time in our life because we're so involved in the activity or the drug or whatever we're using to fill that void, right? That we begin to lose that time. And that's a big indication. Now, this one might seem far-fetched for some of you, but I think some of you might have actually gone through this, where the cell phone usage has actually put a relationship or a job in jeopardy, okay? Where you've gotten caught on the job using the phone, it's gotten out of hand. Perhaps you're in a relationship and you're constantly on the phone, and your girlfriend or boyfriend literally is giving you an ultimatum. You know, it's either me or the phone, okay? And this can really get in the way of us living our life, because it can get in the way of us doing our job properly, and it can definitely get in the way of us having romantic relationships and connections with other people, because the phone begins to be basically the relationship we're having, right? Because we're so intense on what's happening on that phone that we're losing perspective of what's happening around us. And we're in that thinking mind, and we've exited out of the mindful mind. And what happens there is we almost get even more divided from our feelings and our emotions. And so definitely the interpersonal relationships usually fall by the wayside if we're not aware of what's taking place. Another indication that you might be addicted to your smartphone is the need for the newest cell phone, the newest and fastest apps, so that you can increase the use on your cell phone. I know some folks that literally, it's like before the new phone has come out, they're wanting it. I mean, they're looking for that new iPhone 30, right? They want that phone. And so that's a big deal. And when you kind of get to that level, it's like we're not really thinking about what it is. It's a phone. That's what it is. We're actually seeing it as something much more. And so we kind of get pulled into that technology even more. We get more addicted to the faster technology because we're spending more time on it. And the last symptom that I want to talk about on today's video is the withdrawal symptom. Have you ever had it where your phone has died, you don't have a charger, your phone broke, you jumped into the water, forgot about it, it died, or you were in an area where you didn't have network signal? And that's okay, unless you might find yourself addicted to your cell phone. Because if that's happening and you have the inability to communicate, the inability to use the phone, you might have withdrawal symptoms. And those could be anger, tension, depression, irritability, and restlessness. And these are real. I mean, many of you out there have had a situation where you're traveling in an area where you don't have any signal. I got no bars, and you're freaking out, okay? What about the fact of when you think you lost your phone? I've seen some people lose it when they've actually lost their phone. They haven't lost it, but they think they have, and it's almost like they felt like they lost like their best friend. Or if the network's not working and they're unable to be connected. And so that's a definite trigger, I think. That's something to really think about, because if that really gets to you and you really feel overwhelmed with those feelings of tension and anxiety and irritability and anger, that's something to really think about, and something that we probably need to take a little step back and start analyzing. Is there a way to get a little distance from my phone? I know that it helps us to connect with people. I know it helps us to do work, right? Because if I didn't have it, I couldn't run my business, I couldn't do my work, right? But there is a certain level, right? There's a certain level that I need to interact with the phone, and then there's times when I'm just interacting with the phone that makes absolutely no sense. And that's what I'm talking about in this video, because I don't need to wake up in the morning at 5:30 a.m. and the first thing that I do is put on the phone and start text messaging people, right? That's not what I need to do, but that's something that I do, and that's something I'm working to overcome. And I know many of us are dealing with this late at night, sitting in bed, 1 o'clock in the morning, that blue piercing light piercing our eyes, causing us other issues that I want to talk about in an upcoming video, the actual physical effects of this addiction. Okay, so that's good. And the psychological effects of this addiction, which I'm going to talk about in multiple upcoming videos, because this does affect our sleep. It affects the way we feel. It affects our body. some of this stuff might even affect our fertility when it comes to men. So it's something we really want to talk about, because this is really important, because the smartphone can be used properly, but once we go over a certain level and start using it and becoming very dependent on it, we become highly dependent on it for our happiness, to alleviate depression, to alleviate loneliness. Now we've moved into the shades of addiction. I hope this video has helped you. I'll have upcoming videos that will be talking exactly about addiction to smartphone, things you can do overcoming that addiction, and things to understand both physical and also emotionally. Share this with your family and friends, and anybody in your family that seems to have little time for you and all the time for their phone, as well as if you're married and your spouse is addicted to their cell phone. Sharing this with them can actually open the conversation where it's not just coming from you, it's coming from me, but also y'all can talk about it, share the video, and see where y'all can come into the middle so both of you can agree on time that you spend together, the quality time, and obviously the time that everybody can spend on their phone, so that it can work and that everybody feels heard, but everybody feels like they have their own space as well. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and give us a like on this video if this has helped you. And please, in the comment section below, let me know of any symptoms that you've dealt with in smartphone addiction that I didn't cover in today's video, because I know there's a lot more, but we only have a certain amount of time. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Also, remember that our comments and our perspective help other people grow and learn, and that's what a community is about. Don't forget to live your true life.